Today, we're going to dive into a topic that's tough to talk about, but so important to understand: childhood cancer. Specifically, we're focusing on Wilms tumor, which is the most common kind of kidney cancer found in kids. But here's the thing: this isn't just a story about a disease. It's actually a pretty incredible story about medical progress, and maybe most importantly, about hope. So let's get into it. Here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with what Wilms tumor actually is. Then, we'll walk through how it's spotted, how doctors lock in a diagnosis, and what the treatment looks like. And we'll wrap it all up with the outlook for patients today, which is really encouraging, and the big takeaways we should all keep in mind. All right, first up, let's pull back the curtain and really get to the bottom of the most basic question: what exactly is a Wilms tumor? So let's just put it right out there. When we talk about kidney cancer in children, there's one type that we see far more than any other. And you guessed it, that's Wilms tumor. Okay, so the official name is Wilms tumor, or sometimes you'll hear Nephroblastoma, which sounds pretty complicated, right? But the core idea is actually pretty simple. It all starts way back, before a baby is even born. See, during development, certain kidney cells are supposed to mature and become normal kidney tissue. But with Wilms tumor, some of those cells, well, they just don't get the memo. They stay in that primitive embryonal state, and then they start to multiply, which is what forms the tumor. Here are a few quick-hit facts to keep in mind. As we said, it's the most common kidney cancer in kids, which is exactly why it's so important we talk about it. It most often appears before a child turns 5. Now, usually, it only affects one kidney, but in a small percentage of cases, it can show up in both. That's why doctors are always so thorough in their checks. So the big question is, what causes it? Well, there's no single, simple answer, but we do know that genetics can play a really big role. There's a specific gene, the WT1 gene, that's often involved. The tumor is also linked to a few rare genetic syndromes. And that is a huge piece of the puzzle, because if a child is known to have one of these conditions, doctors know to start screening for Wilms tumor super early. Okay, so if this is something that develops quietly inside a child's body, how in the world would you even find it? That brings us right to the warning signs, the clues the body gives us. You know, for so many families, the story starts the same way. A parent feels something by chance, a firm, smooth lump in their child's belly, maybe during bath time or while getting them dressed. And it usually doesn't hurt. That's the most common sign. Other things can pop up too, like blood in the urine, high blood pressure, or just that feeling of being unwell, maybe with a fever or a poor appetite. Now, this next point is absolutely critical, especially for anyone in healthcare. Once a Wilms tumor is even suspected, there's a cardinal rule: do not keep pushing on or feeling the abdomen. Why? Because the tumor can be fragile. Poking at it could actually cause it to break open, spilling cancer cells inside the body. It can turn a very treatable situation into something much, much more serious. All right, so a tumor is suspected. What's next? Well, now the real detective work begins. It's time for the investigation to confirm exactly what's going on. You can think of the diagnostic process like a funnel, where each step gets us closer to a definitive answer. It usually starts with that physical exam. If a doctor feels a mass, the very next step is almost always an ultrasound. It's a quick, easy way to get a first look. From there, CT or MRI scans give a much more detailed picture of the tumor's size and if it is spread. And the final, 100% confirmation, comes from a biopsy, where a tiny piece of tissue is examined under a microscope. And while all that imaging is happening, there are also lab tests running in the background. Things like blood work and urine tests, they give doctors a full picture of the child's health. It helps them figure out how well the kidneys are working and gets everything in place to plan the safest possible treatment. So once that diagnosis is confirmed, it's go time. It's time to create the plan of attack. And that, of course, brings us to the treatment. The very first thing that happens in treatment planning is called staging. And this is so important because the stage of the tumor basically dictates the entire treatment plan. As you can see, it's a scale. Stage I is when the tumor is just in the kidney, nice and contained. And it goes all the way up to stage 4, where it's spread to other parts of the body. There's also a special stage V for those cases where both kidneys are involved. Now, the treatment itself is usually built on what we call 3 pillars, and they're often used together. The cornerstone, the primary treatment, is surgery to remove the affected kidney. Then you have chemotherapy, which uses powerful drugs to hunt down and get rid of any stray cancer cells. And for the more advanced stages, radiotherapy might be brought in as well. And you know, surrounding this whole medical process is just incredible nursing care. Before the surgery, the focus is all about safety. Remember, no poking the belly and getting the child ready emotionally and physically. Then after surgery, the focus shifts completely to recovery, managing pain, watching that surgical site, and making absolutely sure the remaining kidney is doing its job perfectly. It's a huge team effort. We've covered what this is, how it's found, and how it's treated. So now let's get to the part that matters most, the outlook, the road ahead, and that message of hope I mentioned at the start. And this is the number that says it all. For kids with early-stage Wilms tumor, the survival rate is around 90%. Let that sink in. This is one of the great success stories of modern medicine. And for any family facing this diagnosis, this number is a powerful, powerful beacon of hope. Now, while that overall number is amazing, the prognosis for any one child really depends on a few key things. The most important factors are the stage of the tumor when it was found, the child's age, and of course, how well their particular tumor responds to the treatment. And this brings us to a really thought-provoking question. If there's no way to actually prevent a Wilms tumor from developing in the first place, then what's our single most powerful weapon to make these already great outcomes even better? And the answer really is simple. It's early detection. That's the key to everything. We might not be able to stop the tumor from forming, but we can absolutely find it when it's small, contained, and at its most treatable stage. That's why for children who have those known genetic risk factors, regular screening with ultrasound isn't just a good idea, it's a lifesaver. So let's end with this thought. The survival rates are incredible, and that's fantastic. But the journey doesn't just stop at cured. The next frontier, the next big challenge, is ensuring that every single one of these survivors goes on to live a full, healthy, high-quality life. It's about moving beyond just survival to a future where every child can truly, truly thrive.